All right, so this is the thing. Most of this work, my work, is about performance. So sometimes it's hard to distinguish the difference between, for me and my work, the performance versus the collabs, because a lot of the collaborations I do are performance. So that's where the imagery is going to be a little mixed. But I also wanted to focus on the history of this gallery, American Fine Arts, that was really important. And I recently had to school a young person on it, and I got really heated because I feel like it's really the most important gallery in New York that existed. So I guess in the beginning, I was obsessed with Rosalie Goldberg, and performance art was sort of my Bible. I had her book, and I went away to college. I'm from Queens and Long Island, and I came back every weekend to go see performance art. And my biggest influences were Vito Conchi and Carolee Schneeman, and mostly Karen Finley. It was a time when AIDS was sort of really present in my life. It started in the late 80s in my life, but at this time it was really present, and Karen Finley was the most profound artist about talking about those issues. She would lie on a bed and make up a dialogue that was the psychiatrist, and she would talk to herself in a really demeaning way, as a doctor would talk to a woman who's trying to get an abortion. Something like that. So I don't know, other influences were Gordon Matta Clark. He had this food piece in Soho, and that was really cool because people could barter for food through art. There was no monetary exchange, really. There was also Joseph Beuys on The Wolf. And there was this Russian artist, I forget his name, but he locked himself in a cage naked. And that was really intriguing for me for a while. And then he would like get out of the cage, and then he would be on the floor and, kind of like that. And that was pretty cool. He probably should on the floor too. But Beuys said there was something really similar about singing and conversation. It's just this like push-pull of air. And that for me was really intriguing because it related to performance as well. I was a performance art nerd, let's just face it. So I have to get a prop. Okay. So when I was in college, I met Suzanne Anker. And I went to this program in Long Island called at Southampton College, the summer art program, and I highly recommend it. I came from my college, which was West Virginia University, and I basically taught my professors everything. They didn't really know anything about the art world, and coming from New York, you know what I mean, like we get it. So anyway, I met Suzanne Anker there, and she told me something that was really profound. She told me that this was sculpture, which is, it's pretty out there, but the idea that sculpture is this moving, chemically balanced form, structurally moving through space, just like changed everything for me. And then she was really cool. Like, I invited her to my college, and she spoke, and she was really down. So that was cool. Anyway, so basically in 1998, I think I moved back to New York, and the girl I moved here with didn't graduate yet, and she happened to join me later in my band IUD. But so I moved to Williamsburg. It was on Grand and Havamar, and it was very desolate. I only had one friend. I got egged. I was wearing leather pants, and I used to go to the Wu-Tang store in Staten Island, so I thought I was like really hip, and I got off the train, and then I went back to my house, and I got egged from the roof, and like, it was really interesting. Anyway, those were really strange times, but coming from college, I was trying to do ceramics in my apartment, and it was really difficult, so I switched to photography. And that was pretty cool because at that time, there was Tonic and The Cooler and all these really awesome underground music clubs. And I just brought my camera out and I would document everything. And I'll show you some slides of some bands from that time. But that time was a pretty big deal. Like Gerard Malanga would be there, and then there was this British guy who was a dread, and he like documented every band, and he has this huge archive online, and we'll talk about that later too. But all right, I'll start with some slides. And okay, so this was a performance in Miami. Do you guys know Rita Ackerman? Do you know her? Okay. So I performed for her retrospective, and I just walked through this crowd with cymbals and then spun around, and I wrote a song with Mikey Blanco. Do you know him? He's amazing. Anyway, we did a rap. So anyway, okay, so here's another performance. This is with IUD. And I lost my voice. It was in Zurich. And IUD is with my girlfriend, Sadie Laska. But Spencer Sweeney sometimes joins us. And he's a painter that shows at Gavin Brown's. But basically, I lost my voice and I jumped through my drum kit and put on this mask and just I couldn't see, so I just kind of climbed through this space. And I usually turn to theatrics when I lose my voice or like a drum kit breaks or something. Yeah, so those are some shots. Okay, so this is another performance. This is with Rita Ackerman. I was in a band with her called Angel Blood. And this performance was Gaddafi obsessed. I became obsessed with Gaddafi and his views about Coca-Cola, and he had this like pro-Africa thing going on. So I don't know, I became obsessed with the whole thing, the style, everything. So it was Halloween, and I dressed up like him, and so did Rita, obviously. And we projected a lot of this, of all these poets on the street, it's basically protesting black rights, and it was very cool. I was very inspired by them. This is a performance at the Guggenheim recently with Spencer Sweeney. This is, I performed at the MoMA for, in conjunction with the John Cale exhibition. And I basically conducted an ice cube in the air, and I didn't wait till it melted. It was only supposed to be 4 minutes and 22 seconds, so that was pretty great. I loved that. So I see all my sculptures as performance as well. You know, you can't really own them, and it's sort of like the pen being thrown, the show is over at a certain point. So, you can't really catch them. This is DJ Rashad. Do you know DJ Rashad? He passed away, but I just found that, and I got really happy, because I really missed him. So that was a good moment. But, okay, so Rita Ackerman and I did we recorded a few albums, but at a certain point we started curating shows. And this one was called Indigestible Correctness, and it was in two places, Participant Gallery, and Kenny Schachter was this guy in the late 90s who had a gallery called Rove, and it was kind of this pop-up gallery, which I think is the move right now for young people, if not outside on the streets. But so this performance, I was blindfolded, and she gauzed me to a chair, and she rode in on a motorcycle, and there was a subway guy playing in front of a, what was his name? Jeff Elrod painting. We were the first ones to show Jeff Elrod, not to toot my own horn, but we also were the first ones to show Linda Sterling, and a lot more people. Anyway, so she untied me from the chair, and then we had this stairway, which I plunged out all these like meat parts and pearls to the heavens. That was probably my favorite performance that I've ever done, and no one ever saw it. Oh, I wanted to say, I forgot this, but at the Southampton Art College, I met Jerry Saltz. And this is why I would recommend, I mean, you're in New York City, so you could pretty much walk up to anybody and talk to them. But if they see your art, it's really important. When I met him, he basically described the art world. He said that, 85% of it is luck. And then, another 10% is having to be, at the right place at the right time. And then there's also like another 10%, sorry, my math is wrong, that is the talent. But it really works. He was totally right. He tried to get me to quit college and move to New York right away, start performing. Because at the time I was doing these pretty terrible spoken word performances. It was before Peaches, so think about that. It was really crass. And so anyway, he changed my whole life, basically, by meeting him. And like I said, I didn't move, but that was cool. Now he sees me and he always says, "Oh, you're a great artist, you're a great artist." And we tweet to each other and shit, I don't know. But anyway, so I'll keep going. More ice sculptures. This leg was shown at Hauser and Wirth in a group show. They usually take all day to melt. This was in a show with, I had a solo show, but then I decided to include Thornton Dial. Does anyone know his work? You do? You know everything. He's amazing. I became obsessed with his work. I have a lot of pieces with me, but I decided to share my show with him. It was called I'm Not Pregnant. I'm old, I'm 41, so things, for a woman artist, I don't know. So anyway, this piece is, it was a curtain that I did recently, and it had a fan blowing behind it, and no one knew what was there. But here's another ice sculpture. I like this one. I didn't mean to be in it, but I accidentally erased all my ice sculpture photos on my phone. Okay, so then I decided to make soundtracks for the melting ice, and this one was based in archive. So this is kind of a big thing. Basically, when I came out of the womb, I started archiving. I worked at Printed Matter, and I was in charge of the music department. And that kind of changed everything for me. Right when I was working there, I met Pat Hearn, and and she was another force in my zone that said, you work with error, like Joan Jonas. And I was like, holy shit, Joan Jonas. But that was cool. So I kind of always went with that. And in this bookcase, I froze pictures of Pat Hearn. It melted. See, that's Pat Hearn. Anyway, this had major significance, Pat Hearn, because when she passed away, she was in this band with John Lurie's brother, and it was really jazzy and a little bit like Ludus, which was Linda Sterling's band. And I had to do I had to re-sing all of her songs at her funeral. So I asked the guys in my band, Gang Gang Dance, to play with me, and that was like the first day that my band formed. So that was pretty cool. But so Pat Hearn had a big influence on my life and archive. So I basically archived it, and then I made a book called Her Perfume Tears, and you'll see some images from that. This is Rita and I. Sometimes she would jump on stage for Gang Gang shows, or if I didn't show up, she would grab the mic. Yeah, that's IUD in Taiwan. I don't know what's up with that photo. Okay, so this is me and Thornton Dial, the show. I chose this Picabia-esque drawing. He was my favorite artist at the time. And I made the flag piece. And the flag, I realized later, was a big part of my work. I just constantly am revisiting the flag. This I just threw in there because, honestly, I wanted to make... when I was in Amsterdam on tour, all my gear burnt down. There was a huge fire, and we had to cancel the tour. And I wanted them to ship these pieces, but my gallery didn't do it, and I was really pissed. But aren't they great? They're so great. I was like, ship them by boat. Who gives a shit? All right. So anyway, this is my band Actress, and when I lived in Williamsburg, '99, we played a lot. And okay, so there's some Gang Gang people, and that's Spencer Sweeney. Do you guys know his work? You do? No. Okay. Anyway, that's him. And that's Actress at the top. I have the tongue out, which is really embarrassing. Okay. So, archive is pretty amazing. This was a show at Gavin Brown's on Grand Street that I did recently. That's Spencer in the weird jumpsuit overall thing. But there's this group called the Living Theater. Do you guys know about the Living Theater? You do. Okay, so this was sort of a tribute, and every member of the Living Theater archived the performances. My favorite one was they drove into a car dealership. It was right on Houston. There was a Porsche dealership, and they crashed into the dealership and smoked weed and had an orgy, and I just thought they were I just thought that was really badass. Anyway, so this is the first show I curated. Of course, it came out of, like, all of the best things come out of sitting around and having some drinks with your friends, and I decided to curate. This is my first show I ever curated with a few girls, and I was pretty proud of it. Genesis Peorage was in it, and Louise Bourgeois, and I don't know, it's pretty great. This is some photos from when I turned to photography. And I was really influenced by Bernadette Corporation, which you're going to see later. I think we're going into the collaboration zone, but I wanted to talk about collaborations because they're lost. You know, I don't know if anybody buys pieces that you make with someone else. Nobody knows about them. in the past, actually, nobody did. This might have been during Instagram, but this is probably my best achievement in my life. My band choreographed a piece for the Boredoms, the band The Boredoms, and I sang with 88 drummers. And when the lights went down, the Empire State Building was reggae colors. So we were really happy about that. But that was pretty epic. There was a snake in the middle, and that's supposed to be the heartbeat, and the drummers circled out from the center, from the heart. And this is a diagram. If you don't know this band, they're pretty epic. Okay, so American Fine Arts. This is Daniel McDonald. Do you guys know his work? No. He's rad. This is his alter persona called Mindy Vale, and it's really hard to capture him. He was the director at American Fine Arts, and he dresses up like this old lady. And on my birthday, he had a nun that was smoking, but he sang me, what was that song? It was so great. I don't know, something like You Are Everything I Need. That wasn't the song, but it was pretty epic. These are his sculptures. They're shown at Michelle Macaron, and he used to make jewelry called Mended Veil. His sculptures are amazing. I don't know anybody that works like this. This one's pretty hot. Okay, so this is Colin DeLand, who started American Fine Arts. Does anybody know about American Fine Arts? See, this is good. All right. This is Gary Gross, and he showed at American Fine Arts, and this was very controversial, obviously, because of the whole child pornography imagery with Brooke Shields. Aren't they gorgeous? I don't know. Richard Prince probably tried to rip it. I think he did. But yeah, these are pretty amazing. A lot of artists that showed with American Fine Arts, it was strange. I mean, Colin was sort of known as the Keith Richards of the art world. That's what Jerry Saltz said to him. But they showed Merlin Carpenter, Josephine Pride, Stefan Dillamuth, John Miller, Richard Prince, and Colin DeLand had this collective called John Dog. And the work was conceptual, but it was profound work. There was this fashion company called the Bernadette Corporation, and they sort of crossed the bridge between fashion and art. They had a lot of collaborators. They were sort of a collective, and they had a retrospective a year ago at Artist Space. Did you guys go to that? All right, this is kind of major, but these people foresaw fashion and art in the best way. They had their own magazine called Made in USA. The girl with the blonde bleached hair on the front, that's Bernadette, and she was kind of the genius of the group. The girl with the shorts, that's Susan Cinciello, and she just had a show on Broome Street at Bridget Donahue Gallery. I don't know if you guys saw that, but she's a major figure as well. This is Peter Schooler, who also showed at American Fine Arts. There's a cool, sorry I keep using that word. Everyone always says, oh, I hate when you use that word, but you know, I'm a nerd. I don't use it like that. Anyway, this is, I love these bag sculptures and the fans and the photorealistic painting with, did anyone see this show? You did? Good job. He's good. Okay, this is Thorne Dial. again, I chose it. This is Thornton Dial. This is the piece that made me want to work with him. And then eventually, I became really involved in the folk art scene. I lectured at the Folk Art Museum, and then Sam Gordon curated the show at Andrew Edlin Gallery, and I started performing with Lonnie Holly, and I got him to show at my gallery. I'm not saying I'm responsible, but I definitely had something to do with this situation. This is a Thornton Dial. There's a lot of sculptures in the South that, you know, during Katrina, those pieces would just land in trees. And I'll show you later one of my pieces, but it was really inspiring for me because really I like immediacy. I like, I don't take a long time to make a show at all. If you give me a month in a studio, I'll bang it out. Effortless sculpture is sort of my way. And these pieces remind me of performance, you know, like a bike traveling in the air, stuck on a tree. It's like your bra on the clothesline, you know. That doesn't matter. Here's I have 189 images. Anyway, this is a flag I made with Rita, and we showed it in Europe somewhere. And this is a collage. We made 100 collages for this book that Johnny Yetzer was going to put out, and he never did. So I have all these collages. Now somebody wants to put it out. This zine company in Zurich. But these are some of the original collages that no one's ever seen. Bougainworth was another collective that showed at American Fine Arts. I'm Boog, and then there was this girl, Jess Holsworth, and Colin DeLand would hear us talking. She was from West Virginia, I'm from Long Island, and we had this weird etiquette, conversation etiquette, and he would tape us when we weren't, when we didn't know. So then he would put the tapes on the show called Unicorns and Rainbows, which was Alex Bagg's TV show with Patterson Beckwith, and it was kind of a big deal. Like, Patterson was on the cover of Art Forum, and, you know, they had their own TV show. It was, what was it, public access. So that was before everything. Oh, that's an IUD photo from Richard Kern. I like that photo. This is a piece of Jess Holsworth. She became a video director. She did videos for Beck, and this is this is what we would do in our spare time. It's Bougainworth. These collages ended up in the Whitney Biennial, which was pretty cool. Gang Gang was in the Whitney Biennial in 2008, and we did a performance, but I could talk about that later if you're interested. This is more Angel Blood performances. I was really thankful to Rena Spalling's gallery because I showed there was this thing, you know, the two-person show that I thought was the greatest thing. I showed with Kim Gordon. Our work did not relate at all, and I showed my ceramic, like, paintings. And she did photo printouts of bands. So the show didn't make sense. So I called the show Failureisms. And I don't know, that's the story. I'm sure you saw this piece on the flyer outside, but this is my sort of claim to fame on my favorite artwork of all times. It was the first time that I used ceramics in my later work, and this piece ended up in Oslo at this Astrup Furley collection. Here's more Angel Blood art. Our album was called Labia Minora. It's pretty cool. And we recorded a lot of albums. You want to see that's definitely not my body. This was sort of the style of Angel Blood. We would lay on a table, and then we would lay on all these meat carcasses and make all these sculptures. Like, I remember, and then Rita would get on the table, and then we made this chandelier of like 100 candles. It's a candelabra. And her dress caught on fire, and she changed the dress in the middle of the performance, and then we put the dress out, we put the fire out, and then we laid on top of each other in a crucifix on the table. That was a really epic moment. And then we burned a pig head. This is what nobody knows about. We burned a pig head in Zurich, and the animal rights foundation activists, they came, and we said it's dead already. So, but it's just years later, I continued my girl groups, and this is an IUD photo. We did a show at the Paramount Ranch in California, and it's rad. If you get a chance to go, it's really cool. It's in Pioneer Town. That is like an old movie set, and there's a saloon and the horse house, and we became really involved in propaganda, just a bunch of different, Elizabeth Warren, that's when she was running for president, and you'll see some more. That's the old collage that was in the Angel Blood book. But this flag thing, it kind of kept going, and Brian and my band and I just started making all these flags. They're a little silly, but it was fun. I don't know. Oh, this is just a take on immigration. I thought that was pretty good. This is, I know it's not a laughing matter, but this is Rita Ackerman singing recently. She didn't tell me, but she's singing in Bushwick a lot. This is a sculpture I randomly made. I like it. This is some of Spencer Sweeney's paintings. This is a collabo I did in Poitiers, France. I was staying with IUD at this horrible hotel, and there was cum on my blanket. So I threw it out the window, and and I said, Spencer, we gotta stretch this. This is disgusting, This is where I was sleeping, so I just made them buy us blankets, and there was hair entangled it. It was awful. Anyway, it became an art piece, and I just showed it in Luxembourg. Oh yeah, Bernie. Let's do it, right? Let's get him in there. This is okay. I don't know if my work's going downhill or up from here, but this was a sculpture I made for my last show in Luxembourg, and I made it in 2 days. It's called I Really Like Sundays. It was a good one. Anyway, it was, that bad abstract painting movement that everyone's complaining about. That was in the New Yorker. There was that big article. There was a lot of paintings in this show. I'm not going to say anything else. This is sort of reminiscent of Angel Blood, but now I'm in IUD, so we have fun. Okay, these paintings in the back are IUD paintings. We made these collabos. They're not very good. I don't know why they showed them. I don't know why I showed that. This is another collaboration that I made for Tess Giberson. I ended up working with a lot of fashion people at times. This piece I made for Dan Colin. He basically had 2 trucks. I'm just gonna go on a tangent right now. When I was in Sao Paulo, my braces piece was in the museum, and they didn't know anything about American fine arts or anything, and I got upset. They asked me about Dan Colin and Nate Lohman, and that's all they seemed to know. But what people don't know is that we all worked at the Dia Center for the Arts together with Wade Guyton and Jonah Friedman and Kelly Walker and Peter Schoolworth, and it was really fun. Anyway, Dan Colin didn't work there, but so he made these trucks that he reared into the ground, and I built a platform on the top, and I put my drum kit on one side, and Sadie from IUD played a drum kit on the other side, but I also mic'd the vans. And I wanted to destroy them, and Dan was really into the idea. So we threw everything we could find, jackhammers, all those things, and threw them in there, and the mics picked up the sound. So that was pretty great. This is from the Living Theater show. Spencer and I put all the archives in one box, and it went to MoMA, so I was pretty happy about that. Oh, this is Annie Anxiety. She played with Crass, which is pretty great. That's the Living Theater people. This just reminds me of my sculptures with angel blood. That's all that is. Oh, this is Agathe Snow. Did anyone go to her show at the Guggenheim? No. She's, I kind of grew up with her in the 2000s. We both showed with James Fuentes, and that's a horrible piece I made, but I'll explain that later. These pieces, considering with the folk art situation, I went to Denver, and there was this African artist from the 60s who made all these sculptures, like he painted the car, and he put a lot of figures together. For me, it was very socialist. And then there's the Carrie Underwood picture. It was right beside the highway. I thought that was so cool. Anyway, these are like the socialists. He took every part of Africa, Nigeria, and the alphabet from all these places, and collaged the alphabet on this building from every part of Africa. It was very beautiful, but he did this with like 10 buildings. This is a piece I made with Lonnie Hawley. It's supposed to be the lips. The top piece is the face. And okay, so these are like the Katrina. I don't know, I just related to that. You'll see more tree pieces. There's another flag. So Agathe and I designed the tabletops to the show for Chloe 70, and I just broke up with my boyfriend. He was a Capricorn, so I stabbed a knife through that. It says 2 Capricorns. But anyway, I love that sculpture. So anyway, and then Agathe was really into zucchini, so we just did these. Okay, so these are the IUD paintings that we did for the Paramount Ranch. I'm really into drums, if you could tell. This story is kind of funny. This piece, I stole a Felix Gonzalez Torres poster, and I signed it and put a dirty, blown-up condom against it, because I was protesting the fact that in jail they don't have pillows, so they blow up condoms to use as pillows. Anyway, the person that made the poster saw that I signed it and bought it. It's pretty cool. But I did this with the Mary J. Blige poster too, the No More Drama. It was really good, and I signed my name in front of her. So I've been doing this for a long time. This is another piece that IUD did. I stole some Katie Nolan I do this in music too. I steal a lot of things. Okay, this is a small photo, but it's sort of a tribute to Nikki de St. Paul. It's from my show at the Breeder. I made that too for my show in Greece. You know, Euros are Greek. And so that's another braces piece. Oh, that one has the eyebrow ring, which I was pretty into. Oh, these are crazy. When I was in Istanbul, I convinced these owners of these photographs. They were the person that owned the store. These were their nieces, and I convinced them to buy these posters. It's always part of the process, and it's really scary because I always have to get up the nerve, and you know. And she was like, "What are you gonna do with these?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna make art out of them and display them in a gallery in New York. Everyone will see your nieces." And then one of them has a unibrow and the other one has braces. Thank God they never saw them. This is my early work. The penis is always full off. And God we bust. Oh, here's some IUD band CDs. Again, ripping. This is I recorded at the MoMA. I'm on the first album ever that MoMA put out for the John Cage show, so I'm pretty proud of that. But this is a different album. This is IUD. It's called The Proper Sex. This piece is kind of controversial. My band, I wanted to use it for a Gang cover, and they were like, "No way," you know, stupid. I thought this was a great piece. It went like that. So these are just some other works that I threw in there. That's another collab with the God. Total Freedom organized this show. His name is Ashland Mines, and I love this guy, but he asked me to perform by myself, so I had a smoke machine, and I rose from the smoke machine and had a teddy bear, and I forced myself to cry, so that was my performance, and it worked. I cried. It was really good. Oh, that's a monotype I made in high school. I just found that I was really into it. Monotypes are amazing. I don't know, they're really great. There's a nice little girl drummer photo. This was my first Angel Blood recording. That's IUD. This one was crazy, but you can't really see it. I came out in a body bag in Taiwan, and I had a mask, and then the guy unzipped me, and I axed through paper, sort of like the Yoko Ono cut piece. That's the work again. Here's the Angel Blood performance. Nobody ever saw them, so I just threw that in there. Again, we're making a crucifix on the floor. It was band practice. Whenever we would perform, we always did a drawing before we performed. So that was when Rita led me to the staircase. We had sunglasses on. Oh, but I'm blinded. You know, I have the blindfold. That's from my book. It's based on archive. And that's from my book, too. Here's another braces. That one had the mix. This was shown at Andrea Rosen. I've been working with a lot of fans. I've been doing it for a while. Oh, this piece is from 2009. This is a detail. It was sort of a detail of before I went on stage, the rituals I would go through. So I would I never really straightened my hair, but sometimes I used to wear extensions, and then there's lipstick, and I always drank red wine, and I saw myself as Tracy Morgan, so that's why and that's the close-up, and I also, that's sort of a self-portrait, actually. Yeah. I started making Chinese baby graffiti sculptures, and a lot of people like them. Anyway, this is, his name is Jerry, and it's a postcard from P-Town, and I just adorned him with a lot of accessories. This was in my last show. That piece I made recently, which it's called Migration. I'm not really that into it. That's another one. I was really pissed at this, the idea of these bands that get made up by basically people in London. And so I just sprayed them out. There's another tree sculpture. That bag got stolen at my opening. This show is at Home Alone Gallery, and Rita Ackerman and I did this together. This was my bad phase of art, and those were bad pieces that I made. I'm embarrassed about them now. This is sort of my FU to the art world. I took a blanket, one of my flags, and I threw it in the corner, and I said, that's my piece, see you later. That's Jerry, too. I showed that at Home Alone Gallery with a Rob Pruitt sculpture. Do you guys know Rob Pruitt? Okay, good. And this is my last piece. That is the end of my slide series.
I want to, first of all, thank you for coming here tonight. I really love the diversity in your work, and you're open to experimentation. I'm just curious because with you do a lot of performance and as well as stuff that you're not like performing in. How different of an experience is it performing in your art as opposed to like, because I know that both of them are you, but you're in the piece in one and then you're just making it for the next. How different of an interaction or experience is it?
It's kind of similar because I'm always kind of putting myself out there and making a fool of myself, whether I'm on stage or in my artwork. So that's one similarity, but I sort of see them as one thing. The visual work ends up standing in space longer, and it exists, and it's just there. I don't really see much. The process, like I said, is sort of most satisfactory when it's effortless to make and really quick. And I think that's another similarity with performance. Like, I'm not a studio artist. I think, in November, December, I have a residency, and I think I'm gonna lose my mind because I like staying in one place drives me crazy. That's not really how I work. I'm always on the road. So it's frustrating. I'm not that happy with the studio practice unless I have assistants. Well, the 100 collages that I made with Angel Blood, we made them in 2 hours. So that's really gratifying. I think work can happen in that fast kind of period of time.
Who's next? Why do you see yourself as Tracy Morgan?
I was obsessed with certain comedians for a while, and I have to admit, I thought I was really funny. I just watched all these Snaps comedy, and it's basically, you know, your mother is so fat, like those kind of jokes. I didn't see myself any different than those jokes. So that's the Tracy Morgan reference. But a lot of my work has referenced comedians. What is David Copperfield, magicians? Like, I always admired. What's the guy that threw himself in through a cannon? Houdini. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I always admired that kind of work. So it's always been a thing. I forgot my thought process. I was gonna tell you something else, but I forgot. Oh, there's another one.
Next question.
I'm curious how seriously you think the art world takes humor in art.
The art world is so pretentious. That's why it's really fun to see work with humor. Mike Kelly is pretty dark, but Paul McCarthy does a pretty good job of it. Most of my work really is about escapism because, like the ice sculptures and this new piece I'm working on besides the carpet series. But I think people get offended by humor. Did you see the Urs Fischer piece at the new museum with the tongue that's moving? Yeah, you saw it? I think people received that piece really well. So that kind of humor, it's more like slapstick, you know? I think that's okay, but I think that it can be really pretentious. I'm not sure how they see it. Hopefully they laugh. Oh, there's one right there.
What's going on? I have an album recommendation for you.
Okay.
I think you should really check out Ocean Surfer Cool Dad Building Surfboards.
That's a band?
No, that's an album.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you write that down for me on the way out? Is it like Noise, Black Dice?
It was released in 2002. It's like a Japanese jazz funk psychedelic.
Oh, right up my alley. Okay. There's another one.
Your presentation was really cool.
Oh, good.
So one thing that I think is really interesting, this is just like a comment, you saying that your work is about escapism, but I really see it about being present, especially with work that's made so quickly and like in the moment. I get a lot of like being in the moment, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the question that I wanted to ask was like, so there was a comment that your work is about like climate. And I'm curious, like, is that what happened? Is there, what's going on?
What's going on there is that I became really disenchanted with, remember I showed you the studio shot and I was like, this work is terrible. I made a lot of, after the braces period, I had a show in 2000, I think it was 2012, and at first, this was before Urs Fischer, but at first I wanted to make a huge tongue sculpture, and I bought the materials, and then I thought, God, I can't deal with this waste, and I brought it back because I thought, wow, I'm not worthy. If I mess this up, you know, I'm gonna have all this wasted material, and where's it gonna go? And So I started really becoming really conflicted about that. I've been gearing towards that route with elements of earth, water. This new piece that I'm working on is a site-specific installation of 2 escalators. One goes up and one goes down, and it'll be placed in front of a housing unit that is gonna, basically gonna be gentrified, so they're gonna force the people out. So I think those pieces are becoming a little more political, and when I perform with the band, it's more, I talk more about, nature and climate change and all those things. I think that my show at Paramount Ranch just kind of started all that. There's something interesting. I did this sideways stripper pole in Poitiers when I did a show with IUD, and Sadie Laska made it with me, and she got a lot of slack at Bard College about it from feminists. And I think that there is nothing more feminist than making a stripper pole to women. Don't you think? That was just my idea. I had to throw that in there. But I'm working towards more climate change addressing pieces. And when I showed in Poitiers, when I showed you those paintings, I refused to work on them because if they were bad, I didn't want to have to throw them out, acrylic. I'm working on it.
Yo, what's up? You're rad, and I wanted to ask you, is there any chance of us being able to see a performance upcoming? I don't know if you still perform with Gang Gang or IUD, but that'd be dope. And can we get on the VIP list, or can I?
Actually, I'm pretty good at that, getting people on the list. My other forte is getting underage people in. I say they're my niece or my nephew. Let's see. I have a very secret show with a really important band on November 21st. I'm not supposed to talk about it. But that's IUD, so just look out for that, all right? Because, what if it doesn't happen? Then I'm going to screw myself over and all that. Gang Gang is making a record next month, so that's that story. We probably won't perform for a while. Tiganis. My dad's from Athens, and he was the soccer player for Canada. He basically got booted out of Greece. But the truth is I'm Turkish, and I know that's weird. My dad's mom was Queen of Turkey, or, Miss America of Turkey. So I play up the Greek thing a lot, but I think mostly the comedy that I address in my work is Greek, because really, I think we're the best. Has anyone been to Greece? Have you been to Greece? You've been to Athens? Athens? I mean, there was a truck that sells fruit, going through, and they had a scale to measure the fruit, dangling from the truck, and they're beeping a horn. I mean, we can't get more grassroots than that. You know what I mean? Yeah, so my dad's Greek, and there's a lot about the history of being Greek, and I'm also Native American. I'm Sioux tribe, and there's a lot of that in my book. But I think it's just a mentality thing. My dad tells a lot of jokes, and he wanted to be a singer, but his dad didn't let him. And there's one funny story where he was singing in Canada, and when he wasn't playing soccer, and these people kept saying, these kind of wealthy people kept saying, play that song again, play that song again. And then he goes, well, put some money in the bucket. And he put his head, the guy put his head in the bucket. My dad took his bazooki and smashed it on his head. And that was, yeah, I really identify with that, with my performances, and, you know, the rebellion and, you know, not taking any shies off or anything, you know, like really telling it raw. I think we're kind of the closest to animals. Oh, there's another one. If that's it. Did I disappoint you with that answer?
Hi.
Hi.
So I had a question about, I'm interested in your decisions to incorporate other cultures, because I saw you dressed up as Gaddafi, and you have the little Chinese baby in that one slide that you passed of you and your friend with blackface, which I'm presuming it is. I was just curious as to why, like knowing that you're the kid of an immigrant, first generation, I'm assuming.
I relate to it. That's all it is. Okay, that one is really, it's not really meant to be political. I lived in Chinatown for a long time, and every New Year they have these posters of Chinese babies, and I just started working with them. I didn't mean to insult anybody. Do you find them insulting? Yeah, a lot of people have trouble with when I address those issues. For example, my friend, she's in Orange is the New Black, and there were some pieces that she wouldn't buy because she didn't want to offend anybody. I didn't mean to offend anybody with the Chinese babies. The truth is, everybody loves them. They think they're so cute. And it's not a deep political, you know, race involved thing. It's just people love them. That's all it is. Is that disappointing?
We have time for one final question. So.
How do you find the time or decide to balance all the different methods of creative expression that you have?
That's a good question. Well, I haven't toured for 2 years, which has really helped. I took a hiatus from my band. And then I made the John Cage record, and I made a book, and I made all these ice sculptures, which really financially I would not recommend making ice sculptures because it doesn't help you out in the bank, you know what I mean? But basically when I was touring, we would have breaks, like a month break or 2-month breaks, and I would try to schedule my art openings then. And that's how I worked it out. That's another reason why, you know, the gratification from working so fast is really gratifying to me, because I really only had short periods of time to make things. And yeah, that's why I just really, the studio practice is like a love-hate thing, because I always think that, you know, I can, you know, this be so great. I have all this time to make all these pieces, but I just hit a wall and I can't make anything because there's no pressure. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so I just make it happen. That's it. All right, so this is the thing. Most of this work, my work, is about performance. So sometimes it's hard to distinguish the difference between, for me and my work, the performance versus the collabs, because a lot of the collaborations I do are performance. So that's where the imagery is going to be a little mixed. But I also wanted to focus on the history of this gallery, American Fine Arts, that was really important. And I recently had to school a young person on it, and I got really heated because I feel like it's really the most important gallery in New York that existed. So I guess in the beginning, I was obsessed with Rosalie Goldberg, and performance art was sort of my Bible. I had her book, and I went away to college. I'm from Queens and Long Island, and I came back every weekend to go see performance art. And my biggest influences were Vito Conchi and Carolee Schneeman, and mostly Karen Finley. It was a time when AIDS was sort of really present in my life. It started in the late 80s in my life, but at this time it was really present, and Karen Finley was the most profound artist about talking about those issues. She would learn, so I don't know, I became obsessed with the whole thing, the style, everything. So it was Halloween, and I dressed up like him, and so did Rita, obviously. And we projected a lot of this, of all these poets on the street, it's basically protesting black rights, and it was very cool. I was very inspired by them. This is a performance at the Guggenheim recently with Spencer Sweeney. This is, I performed at the MoMA in conjunction with the John Cale exhibition. And I basically conducted an ice cube in the air, and I didn't wait till it melted. It was only supposed to be 4 minutes and 22 seconds, so that was pretty great. I loved that. So I see all my sculptures as performance as well. You know, you can't really own them, and it's sort of like the pen being thrown, the show is over at a certain point. So, you can't really catch them. This is DJ Rashad. Do you know DJ Rashad? He passed away, but I just found that, and I got really happy because I really missed him. So that was a good moment. But, okay, so Rita Ackerman and I we recorded a few albums, but at a certain point we started curating shows. And this one was called Indigestible. That time was a pretty big deal. Like Gerard Malanga would be there, and then there was this British guy who was a dread, and he like documented every band, and he has this huge archive online, and we'll talk about that later too. But all right, I'll start with some slides. And okay, so this was a performance in Miami. Do you guys know Rita Ackerman? Do you know her? Okay, so I performed for her retrospective, and I just walked through this crowd with cymbals, and then spun around, and I wrote a song with Mikey Blanco. Do you know him? He's amazing. Anyway, we did a rap. So anyway, okay, so here's another performance. This is with IUD, and I lost my voice. It was in Zurich. And IUD is with my girlfriend, Sadie Laska, but Spencer Sweeney sometimes joins us, and he's a painter that shows at Gavin Brown's. But basically, I lost my voice, and I jumped through my drum kit and put on this mask and just I couldn't see, so I just kind of climbed through the space. And I usually turn to theatrics when I lose my voice or like a drum kit breaks or something. Yeah, so those are some shots. Okay, so this is another performance. This is with Rita Ackerman. I was in a band with her called Angel Blood. And this performance was Gaddafi obsessed. I became obsessed with Gaddafi and his views about Coca-Cola, and he had this like pro-Africa thing going on. Lie on a bed and make up a dialogue. That was the psychiatrist, and she would talk to herself in a really demeaning way, as a doctor would talk to a woman who's trying to get an abortion. Something like that. So, I don't know, other influences, or Gordon Matta Clark. He had this food piece in Soho, and that was really cool because people could barter for food through art. There was no monetary exchange, really. There was also Joseph Beuys on The Wolf. And there was this Russian artist, I forget his name, but he locked himself in a cage naked. And that was really intriguing for me for a while. And then he would like get out of the cage and then he would be on the floor and, you know, kind of like that. And that was pretty cool. He probably should on the floor too. But yeah, Beuys said there was something really similar about singing and conversation. It's just this like push-pull of air. And that for me was really intriguing because it related to performance as well. I was a performance art nerd, let's just face it. So I have to get a prop. Okay, so when I was in college, I met Suzanne Anker. And I went to this program in Long Island called at Southampton College, the summer art program, and I highly recommend it. I came from my college, which was West Virginia University, and you know, I basically taught my professors everything. They didn't really know anything about the art world, and coming from New York, you know what I mean, like we get it. So anyway, I met Suzanne Anker there, and she told me something that was really profound. She told me that this was sculpture, which is, you know, it's pretty out there, but the idea that sculpture is this moving, chemically balanced form, structurally moving through space, just like changed everything for me. And then she was really cool. Like I invited her to my college and she spoke and she was really down. So that was cool. Anyway, yeah, so basically in 1998, I think I moved back to New York, and the girl I moved here with didn't graduate yet, and she happened to join me later in my band IUD. But so I moved to Williamsburg. It was on Grand and Havamar, and it was very desolate. I only had one friend. I got egged. I was wearing leather pants, and I used to go to the Wu-Tang store in Staten Island, so I thought I was like really hip, and I got off the train, and then I went back to my house, and I got egged from the roof, and like, it was really interesting. Anyway, those were really strange times, but coming from college, I was trying to do ceramics in my apartment, and it was really difficult, so I switched to photography. And that was pretty cool because at that time, there was Tonic and The Cooler and all these really awesome underground music clubs. And I just brought my camera out and I would document everything. And I'll show you some slides of some bands from that time. But